Hello and welcome back to Spell Slingers. Today we're going to answer the question, is Pathfinder too good? Spoiler alert, yes, she is. And I'm going to show you here why. Alright, let's say it's a Pathfinder versus Avatar of Water, and Pathfinder is going first. What happens in this game? Alright, let's show. Tap Pathfinder, play land. I'm not going to do the Genesis effects, we're doing this quickly. Alright, Avatar of Water's turn. They draw a spell. They tap, they play land, they pass back to the Pathfinder. Pathfinder untaps, does the Pathfinder thing. Right, that's drawing a card, moving, and placing the site. That's 3 things for one ability. That by itself is busted already, but you know, she has other things that make it even more easy to break that ability. Alright, let's untap. We'll draw another spell. Alright, well, I'm not going to not play a land, right? I mean, I've got to produce mana, so I'm going to play a land. So I'm thinking, okay, where do I play it? I know Pathfinder's going to rush me down and start playing lands. If I allow her to move here for free without playing a land there, then I'm already pushed into kind of the back, like, 2 rows, missing 1, and she could continue to progress horizontally when I will not be able to once she's here. I'll have to go left, and then if she follows me, she's going to block me. And then if I go right, same thing. So I have to play here, basically. There's almost no real decision. It's got to go here. And sure, I'll play my eel. Not that it really matters for this demonstration. I'm going to untap. And then what can Pathfinder do? Okay, let's really think about it. She can tap, move from a site into the void, placing the top site of your atlas there. Really good. But for some reason, she can also discard a site from your hand and move 1 step. So let's do that. We'll discard a site. We'll move here. So now we're here for free without having to tap because of the ability. And then we can still just Pathfind here. So look what's happened. By turn 3, I'm already on their side of the board, forcing them to kind of play even more defensively than they probably were already playing, especially if they've seen this happen before. Sure, I'll pass to them. I guess technically I could have played my Giantess, so I will. They've got 1 site in hand, so, now they're thinking, maybe I draw from the Atlas, maybe I don't. I'll draw from the spell book. I still can't move to play a site, and now that she's here, what do? Not play a site here and try and branch out this way? Because if I play a site here, she's just going to play 1 here, and then I'm locked to only these 2. So that's pretty easy for her. She could even do that again. Like if I play my site here, next turn she can go here, and put a site there. Now I'm locked even more. Okay, so I'm seeing that and I'm saying, fine, you get this half of the board. I'll get this half. So I go here, right? Alright, I'll pass back to the Pathfinder. They draw a spell. Pretty sure I forgot to draw a spell last time. And what do they want to do? Okay, so you're branching this way. I can do so many things. I can move here to get a free land. So now you're... Oh, I'll actually do it here. Move here to get a free land. So now you're locked. This is my side of the board forever. And then I can discard a site to move here, should I want to. So I'm already pushing even farther into that side that they were trying to build into. So okay, let's untap. Now I've got to draw a site or else I won't have one to play. So I'll draw the site. Again, still can't move because I got to play my mana. Otherwise I'm just falling behind on mana. So I'll play the Undertow here, I guess, so it's harder for Pathfinder to get into my space, right? You would think so, but no, not really. So we'll pass back to Pathfinder. They untap. They think, okay, this time I'll draw an Atlas or a site so that I can discard it to move here and then move here and do the Pathfinder thing. Boom. So look how much I've already locked them. Like now they're going to have to go this way, and next turn, I'll show you what I can do next turn. It's ridiculous. Avatar untaps. They've got to draw an Atlas unless they have stuff they can already play that'll win the game at 4 mana. They really don't. So they draw from the Atlas. They tap here. What do? They have a couple options, I guess. They could play here or here. Those are the only 2 options right now. Look at all the options that Pathfinder has. So sure, we'll tap and we'll play here. It's probably the best bet. And, we'll play whatever. Doesn't matter for this example. Go back. Pathfinder untaps. What can Pathfinder do? So we could choose to draw an atlas and play one here. And then next turn we can kind of move into here, depending on where our opponent plays their land. So we can just continue to lock them and play into our space. When you play against Pathfinders doing their job correctly, you're playing by their rules almost the entire game. They're forcing you to build your sites and your territory in a certain way. I'll draw from the Atlas again this turn. And you don't ever need to. That's the other thing. I never really need to touch my Atlas as a Pathfinder. I could have just as easily just moved here to get the land. Which is also insanely good. So that continues to lock them out from this progression. Now they have to use this to go one of two ways. And whichever way they go, I just take the other one. And then, you know, they get one more here. So let's play that out, I guess. We'll continue to show it, untap, forcing us to draw from the Atlas again if we want to even remotely have as much mana as them. I guess we'll play it here, and we'll pass back. Pathfinder untaps. And they'll draw an Atlas probably this turn if they're trying to lock you out of the lands. They will play, you know, they could do a couple things. They could discard the Atlas, move here, and then move here. So that's 2 cards drawn that turn, as well as moving and playing a land, all in the same motion. And so now the only place the Avatar of Water can still play a land is here. So I'll show you. We'll untap, play a site here, which is deep in their territory. Pathfinder's doing the same thing. They do go deep in your territory, so you can get chip damage on their lands. So that's definitely nice. Doesn't balance the card, though. It's not enough. And then we pass back. Pathfinder untaps. Now look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, sorry. Pathfinder has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as well. So right now we're at parity. We have the same amount of lands. I can still play as Pathfinder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can almost double the sites I have in that game by turn. What turn is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is turn 8. Sometimes games will end before that. It's usually unlikely. Sorcery goes pretty long, especially with the lack of card advantage. And I have nearly doubled my effective mana this game, should I choose to do it that way. And it wasn't hard, right? Like, all you have to do is pay attention to your opponent in the smallest way, and Pathfinder can just make the game completely revolve around Pathfinder. Some people are saying Pathfinder doesn't win you the game on your own. Yeah, congratulations. You are aware that Pathfinder only hits for 1 and that playing lands doesn't typically end the games. But when we talk about a game that revolves completely around one card that you have on the field from turn 1, and then by turn 8, you can continue to play 6 more lands, and your opponent can never play another site. So every turn you're getting more lands. You can continue to do this without having to ever touch your Atlas. You touch your Atlas when it's worthwhile because you're going to lock your opponent out of being able to expand their mana. So when you go for the Atlas, it's basically an aggressive play, where usually going for the Atlas is just a way to continue to progress your board and to try and make mana. And so sure, a lot of spells don't cost more than, 8 or 7 mana. But when we're talking about playing 2 spells a turn, the person playing 2 spells a turn is usually doing better than the person playing 1 spell a turn. That's not always the case, but it is a pretty good sign that the person playing 2 spells compared to the person playing 1 is probably winning or doing more or having more impact and effect on the game. And that's what Pathfinder does. She locks you out of lands incredibly quickly and incredibly easy while she's mostly drawing gas from the spellbook, because every turn you can just choose to go for the spellbook, and if there's anywhere near you with the void that's not diagonal, then you can play a site in it from the top. Even if it's a diagonal direction, if you have a site in your hand, you can discard the site and then do the Pathfinder ability to move into the void and place the land. So even the nearby sites aren't safe. And the fact that she starts with 3 sites in her hand like normal is just ridiculous because it lets her do this so much easier. I mean, it's brain dead, really. You don't have to think. It's not hard. It's incredibly simple. And if you're doing anything else in the process, then you're winning. It doesn't take much. A deck that's built half decently can still just close a game out like that because you've taken full control of the game. You're playing by Pathfinder's rules in this game. There's a couple reasons this is terrible. One, if the game releases, Pathfinder's still like this, and we don't have other incredibly busted avatars, then Pathfinder's going to be ubiquitous. Like if you play at the LGS down the street, which is going to be naturally more competitive because you're in person, you're playing at this like shop. People are going to try to build their decks to be as good as they can because they don't want to be the guy getting stomped. So naturally, when it comes to like LGS environments, people are more competitive than they would be at the kitchen table. So when you go out, you play with strangers, what are you going to see most of the time? You're going to see Pathfinder. I've heard people say that why would I play anything else, right? Like that's the philosophy that a lot of the Pathfinder players have. And I'm not blaming anyone for playing Pathfinder. Like I was playing Pathfinder for a while before I realized how insanely broken it is. It took me a moment to realize that I can lock people out of lands that easily. Then I built a deck specifically designed to do it, a water deck. So I was bouncing people's lands through their hands. And once I would bounce the land through their hand, I would Pathfinder into that new void. And so I was taking lands they had and making them mine incredibly easily. Like it's not hard. So that was insanely broken. But the last thing that I think anyone wants in a card game, especially a trading card game, is a ubiquitous avatar that is always going to be across the table from you. Like, where's the fun in that? Pathfinder can still be an interesting avatar, but if they're nerfed, now you're encouraging people to find the variety in their avatars and their deck building. Where right now, Pathfinder is just so generically good that you could build almost any strategy underneath her and it would be better because it's got her. I mean, it's insane. My water deck that plays Pathfinder instead of Avatar Water, just better, just stronger in every way. The Earth deck that I'm showing you right now, literally undefeated with this Pathfinder. It has never lost a game. It's probably played 9 or 10 games. I don't even think it's been close. I mean, it's so, so easy to break Pathfinder that, like people are saying, why would you play anything else? I think there's a ton of good reasons because Pathfinder is one, ubiquitous right now, incredibly boring, and the other avatars are cool. Like Avatar of Water is cool, but because her mobility is a lot more limited, she can do the water thing where she moves to a site you play, which is probably a pretty good counter to Pathfinder. I didn't really use that in this example because that's not the point here. Is that if Avatar of Water can maybe sort of, kind of try to counter Pathfinder, even then, you're really not because you still build your lands out the same way. You'll just be moving your avatar more. So it's almost irrelevant. But a lot of the other avatars can't do anything against the Pathfinder stuff. They've got to play their sites. If they don't, they end up way behind on mana, and your Pathfinder ends up playing 2 spells a turn while you're playing, just one. And you're stuck in your initial location, especially in the early turns where Pathfinder is going to just build the bridge and then collapse in on you. So it's insanely brutal. Let's talk about a few ways we could fix Pathfinder. So let's pull her up big on the screen. There are several ways that I think we can make Pathfinder more reasonable. One, we ditch the third ability. If you can discard a site from your hand and move 1 step for free, you get to start playing your lands diagonally. And so it makes that collapsing and locking people out of their side of the board even easier, right? I mean, the move 1 step is completely unnecessary. There's no reason she should be able to move 2 squares a turn. It's just way too much. Where most avatars can not move at all when they play their land, and so they're pretty stationary, especially in the early turns of the game, Pathfinder can move 2. And she could do that twice without ever having to touch the Atlas because turn 1 she plays from the hand, and then when she needs to, she has 2 extra movements just sitting in her hand ready to go. So I think if we get rid of the third ability, we can keep Pathfinder's identity, like her core essence, the tap, move from a site to the void, placing the top site from your Atlas there. We could keep that. It's still incredibly good. Like, I don't think anyone would deny that. But the third ability is unnecessary, and it creates a really kind of parasitic gameplay. So I think we ditch that, and we have brought Pathfinder down to a reasonable level. She's still going to be pretty insanely good. She still might be ubiquitous. It depends on what the other avatars are going to be. So I guess we'll see. Another way that we could try to balance Pathfinder is to have her start with only a single sight in her hand. That ensures that turn one, she could play her sight like normal, but it makes it so that if you want to do this extra movement, you're gonna have to draw from the atlas. I'm interested to try that fix because one of the other broken things about Pathfinder is that she almost never needs to draw from the atlas. So while your opponent after turn three is probably drawing from the atlas occasionally so that they can continue to create mana, or new mana rather, Pathfinder doesn't need to do that. If they play correctly, they could probably go the whole game with touching the atlas maybe like once. And when they do, it's probably so good and so worth it that it's almost irrelevant. So that means they're drawing from the spellbook constantly. So Pathfinder not only draws a card from her ability to tap and move from a site into the void by sneaking the top site into play, which is drawing a card and playing it and moving, but when she actually draws her turn, it's always going to be from the spellbook, which means that her hand is going to be filled with spells while your opponent has to start drawing atlases at some point, unless their mana curve literally stops at 3, and then they have other problems. So yeah, putting one land in her hand at the beginning, maybe a potential fix. Make her draw from the atlas if she wants to do that ability. I'd be interested to test that one and see, does it even really make that big of a difference? Like maybe just locking people out on lands is good enough that it doesn't need the card advantage to back it up. And so maybe drawing from the atlas doesn't even stop that. That'd be something interesting to test. Oh, if Pathfinder had to play the site from her hand, like if she could move from the void, but the site came from her hand and not the atlas, that would probably fix her as well. She'd have to start drawing off the atlas. She'll have to draw from the atlas often, like everybody else. That means she's not drawing spells constantly and having that advantage as well as the other one. I'm not as sure about that particular fix. I think that the land locking is just so good that, I don't know. I think taking the extra movement from her is probably the best thing we can do, or maybe starting her with just one land in hand. But again, if the land locking is just so strong that it doesn't matter that they draw from the atlas occasionally, then it might not be enough. So there's a few things to look at, a few things to maybe try. And if you agree about Pathfinder with me and you think, you've played some games against Pathfinder, or you've been playing Pathfinder and you realize that she just dominates most of the games she's in, if the deck is even half decent, then post some feedback. They've put the feedback in the Discord channel. There's a link to do a little survey. I'll link that in the description as well. But that's the best thing we could be doing right now before the game launches in September, is to post feedback. I don't think anyone wants a game where Pathfinder is the only reasonable avatar to play if you're trying to win. We want some variety. Variety is the spice of life. And hopefully it becomes the spice of sorcery, and we see a lot less Pathfinder on the field. That would be incredible. Well, all right. That's all I got to say today. Pathfinder, very strong. Perhaps even way too strong. I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a good one. Keep on slinging spells.